Ibigay ko muna sa inyo ito pong balita tungkol sa nangyaring banggaan ng Chinese vessels. Sa kakatugis ng Coast Guard vessels ng ating bansa, sila yung nadisgrasya. Sabi ng marami, karma niya. Ito yung tinamong damage mga kababayan ng Chinese Coast Guard. Ang bumangga dito, yung si Sara Duterte, may paandar na naman kasi mga kababayan. Yan sabi dito sa report ng ABS-CBN. Vice President Sara Duterte on explaining the alleged misuse of confidential funds to the public given the Supreme Court already declared articles of impeachment as unconstitutional and Senate archive. May fifth motion for reconsideration na rin po na final sa Supreme Court ruling on Duterte impeachment. Sila yung grupo mga
nagbabagang mga balita at pagtalakay sa mga isyu ng lipunan. Bullseye! Opinyon, banat at paglalantad sa katotohanan. Bullseye! What you see is what you get. You decide.
Ano po mga kababayan, si Dante Maravillas, Bicolano vlogger, broadcast journalist from Albay. Ibigay ko muna sa inyo ito pong balita tungkol sa nangyaring banggaan ng Chinese vessels. Sa kakatugis ng Coast Guard vessels ng ating bansa, sila yung nadisgrasya. Sabi ng marami, karma niya. Ito yung tinamong damage mga kababayan ng Chinese Coast Guard. Ang bumangga dito, yung barko ng Navy ng China. Sa kakahabol mga kababayan sa ating Coast Guard, sila yung minalas. Ito yung Chinese Navy ship, mga kababayan. Kaya sabi po ni Commodore Tariela, ito anyang mga larawan at video na raw ang magpapakita ng katotohanan sakaling ibintang muli ng China sa Pilipinas ang banggaan ng PLA Navy warship at ng China Coast Guard sa Scarborough Shoal habang hinaharas ang BRP Suluan ng Philippine Coast Guard. Ayon kay PCG, spokesperson for West Philippine Sea, Commodore J. Tariela. Sabi niya, sa akin, there's nothing more for us to add because the truth is on our side. Sabi dito sa report ng PTB. Samantala, inangaan naman ang seamanship skills ng PCG crew kaya't hindi nadamay ang ating barko sa banggaan ng mga barko ng China. Hindi tayo nagkaroon ng damage dahil sa ginawa ng China Coast Guard. It's also worth mentioning because of their seamanship skills. Naiwasan natin ang any collision ng Chinese Maritime Forces. Sila ngayon yung nagbanggaan. Di nakuha nila ang hanap nila mga kababayan. Dati tayo yung binabangga niyan. Yan ang gawain kasi malalaki yung kanilang barko. Sila yung nagbanggaan. Di ba? Pero sabi, yung mga mga Chinese crew, sinakluluan pa ng ating mga Coast Guard. Ito po yung video. More complete version ng video. Doon sa kabila. Bumangga mga kababayan. Gustong habulin yung ating Coast Guard vessel. Kinat. Gustong ikat mga kababayan ito yung Coast Guard natin. Gustong ikat sila yung nadali. Yan yung intensyon nila mga kababayan ay bombahin tayo ng water cannon. Yan yun ang intensyon. So ito yung result mga kababayan ng kanilang kasakiman. So, ito siya mga kababayan. You see? So sabi ni Tariela, the damage niya doon sa CCG vessel made it unseaworthy. On our part, we even extended our intention to support, man overboard, and even provide medical attention sa mga tropa nila. We are anticipating na nagkaroon ng injury. Kaya sabi ni Tariela, China has violated the collision regulation with its dangerous maneuvers. Ang gustong banggain mga kababayan, yung Coast Guard natin, sila yung nagbanggaan. Di ba? So nakuha nila yung deserve nila mga kababayan. Di ba? Hindi man yan talaga yung topic natin mga kababayan. Ang topic natin, yung barkada ng China. Si Sara Duterte, may paandar na naman kasi mga kababayan. Yan sabi rito sa report ng ABS-CBN. Vice President Sara Duterte on explaining the alleged misuse of confidential funds to the public given the Supreme Court already declared articles of impeachment as unconstitutional and Senate archived her impeachment case. Ang sabi ni Sara, kung may kaso sa tamang forum, mag-explain kami. Doon sa mga tamang forum at tamang venue, nagbibigay kami ng saktong sagot at nagbibigay kami ng explanation ng mga accusation, sabi po ni Sara. Nananadya talaga si Sara. Ang iinis, hindi man po ninyo maiinis yung Congress. Nakafocus lang ang Congress. And in fact, pag hindi talaga ma-reverse, naka-ready na po yung minority block, yung makabayan na block, naka-ready nang i-refile. Anyway, ilang buwan na lang po. 6 months. After 6 months, mga kababayan, pwede na naman po na i-file ang bagong impeachment case laban kay Sara Duterte. Hindi man siya tatantanan ng mga congressmen, lalo na yung nasa minority po. Sisingilin siya. Hindi pwedeng patulogin na lang, mga kababayan, ang kanyang mga katarantaduan na ginawa. So, ito yung report ng Inquirer. Makabayan to refile Duterte impeachment if Supreme Court won't reverse order. In an interview with reporters kanina, sabi ni ACT Teachers Party List Representative Antonio Tinio and Kabataan Party List Representative Rene Co, magpa-file sila ng bagong complaint should the Supreme Court reject the House motion for reconsideration. Sabi ni Tinio, yes, definitely. If the impeachment would really fail to push through now, then as soon as possible, if that is February of next year, definitely, we will relaunch that. Sabi naman ni Kabataan Party List Representative Rene Co, the pursuit of accountability niya will continue, whether through an impeachment trial or House hearings to which Duterte will be invited. Ipapa-invite siya, mga kababayan. Ako sa inyo po, mga congressmen, wag na ninyong bibigyan pa ng respeto yung Office of the Vice President kasi kayo nga po, hindi man nire-respeto ang institusyon. Pag hindi po nag-attend sa inyo pong inquiry, investigasyon, i-contempt po ninyo si Sara. At itulad ninyo, kaya Roque naging pugante. Naging pugante ng Congress. At ang ma-file yung kaso, naging pugante sa korte. Mga kababayan, ganun ang gawin ninyo. Maraming paraan. Hindi lang itong impeachment. So yun, mga kababayan, ang gagawin pala. May power ang Congress na magpa-arrest, magpakulong. Kasi pag hindi ginawa ninyo po, kakamutihin ni Sara Duterte. Binibigyan pa kasi ninyo ng respeto. Kayo nga po, hindi nire-respeto. Yung Pangulo nga, hindi nirespeto, pinagbantaan na papatayin. Kaya sabi nito na dalawa congressmen, for us definitely, we will continue in our call to try Sara, whether it be through the impeachment trial or through the public, as the public deserves to know where their money is at. And if she will continuously evade and say, I do not want to appear because there are questions or it is not voluntary for me to explain. For us, these are acts unbecoming of a public official. So in the end, whether it be through an impeachment trial in 2026 or the continuous scrutiny through the hearings in Congress where we want the corruption issues to be revealed, the Makabayan Bloc will continue to do that. So hindi siya tatantanan, mga kababayan, itong mga minority congressmen. O ngayon, kung iakusa niya na may kumpas yung ating Pangulo or si Martin Romualdez dito, malabo man po. Kasi itong mga minority congressmen, kaya nga minority, independent po sila kung mag-isip. Ngayon, kung sumang-ayon naman po yung majority, it is because, mga kababayan, importante ang accountability sa sino mang public official. Diba? Alangan man talikuran ng majority, mga kababayan, ang accountability na kailangang mapanagot. May fifth motion for reconsideration na rin po na final sa Supreme Court ruling on Duterte impeachment. Sila yung grupo, mga kababayan, religious group, na nag-file ng third impeachment complaint against Vice President Sara Duterte. Ngayon, motion for reconsideration yung kanilang final. Ngayon, si Chief Prosecutor po, House Prosecutor, Congressman Libanan, na siya rin pong House Minority Floor Leader, Marcelino Libanan po, nag-privilege speech kanina. Ayan po. Sabi ni Libanan, yung desisyon niya ng Supreme Court declaring the articles of impeachment against Vice President Sara Duterte unconstitutional is a judicial amendment of the Constitution. Yung saligang batas, inamyenda na ng Supreme Court. Sabi nga po ni dating tied Supreme Court Associate Justice Adolf Ascuna, yung Supreme Court niya, dineclare yung konstitusyon na unconstitutional. In effect, gano'n ang ginawa, mga kababayan. So sabi ni Libanan sa kanyang privilege speech kanina, the right niya of the House to promulgate its own rules is clearly and plainly stated in our fundamental law. It is not for the Supreme Court to write the rules and for the House to follow. The judiciary has the vital role of interpreting laws, including the Constitution, but that role does not extend to amending it. The power to interpret does not include the power to rewrite, sabi po ng congressman. Tama po. Kaya ang tawag po ng mga legal luminaries, constitutionalists, and former Supreme Court justices and Chief Justices ng Supreme Court. Ang ginawaan niya ng Supreme Court is judicial overreach. Sumubra sa kanilang power. Ito yung privilege speech, mga kababayan, ni Congressman Minority Leader Marcelino Libanan ng 4-Piece Party List.
Speaker, esteemed colleagues, good afternoon. As early as the second half of the 14th century, the concept of impeachment emerged in England as a means of holding high officials to account for misconduct. In 1787, it was adopted into the United States Constitution, granting the House of Representatives power to impeach and the Senate the power to try impeachment. The United States later introduced impeachment to the Philippines during the Commonwealth period through the 1935 Constitution. This framework adopted the U.S. model, specifying the grounds for removing the President, Vice Justices of the Supreme Court, and the Auditor. It granted the House the power to impeach by a 2/3 vote and the Senate the power to convict by a 3/4 vote. While the 1935 Constitution laid the foundation, the 1973 and the 1987 Constitutions refined both the process and the grounds for impeachment. The 1973 Constitution, under a parliamentary system, gave the National Assembly the exclusive power to initiate, try, and decide all cases of impeachment against the President, Supreme Court Justices, and the members of the constitutional commissions for culpable violation of the Constitution, treason, bribery, other high crimes, or graft and corruption. The 1987 Constitution, which restored the bicameral Congress, preserved impeachment under Article 11, Section 2 and 3. It specifies the impeachable officials, the exclusive power of the House to initiate, and the sole authority of the Senate to try impeachment cases. It likewise grants both chambers the constitutional right to promulgate its own rules to govern impeachment proceedings. For 90 years, this system stood. But on July 25, 2025, the Supreme Court of the Philippines rendered this decision in Duterte versus House of Representatives, GR number 278353, and changed the course of our constitutional practice. Mr. Speaker, I will not belabor the chorus of voices calling the decision gravely erroneous in fact and in law. Rather, I will focus on its adverse effects and ominous consequences to our constitutional duty to demand accountability from high officials. The decision not only declared void ab initio the plenary approved articles of impeachment against the Vice President Nostra Dante transmitted to the Senate on February 5, 2025, it also ruled that she was denied due process under the Bill of Rights. The court held that due process applies at all stages of impeachment and imposed 7 new due process requirements on the House. Per Supreme Court decision in Duterte versus House of Representatives et al., CR 278353, July 5, 2025, due process requirements in impeachment proceedings are as follows. Number 1, the articles of impeachment or resolution must include evidence when shared with House members, especially those who are considering its endorsement. Number 2, evidence should be sufficient to prove the charges in the articles of impeachment. Number 3, the articles of impeachment and the supporting evidence should be available to all members of the House of Representatives, not only those who are being considered to endorse. Number 4, the respondent in the impeachment complaint should have been given a chance to be heard on the articles of impeachment and the supporting evidence to prove the charges prior to its transmittal to the Senate, despite the number of endorsements from House members. Number 5, the House of Representatives must be given a reasonable time to reach their independent decision of whether they can endorse an impeachment complaint. The court, however, has the power to review whether this period is sufficient, but petitioner who invokes on the court's power to review should prove that officials failed to perform their duties properly. Number 6, the basis of any charge must be for impeachable acts or omissions committed in relation to their office and during their current term of the impeachable officer. For the President, the Vice President, these acts must be sufficiently grave, amounting to the crimes described in Article 11, Section 2, a betrayal of public trust given by majority of the electorate. For the other impeachable officers, the acts must be sufficiently grave that they undermine and underweight the respect of their constitutional independence and autonomy. Number 7, to ensure that respondent in the impeachment complaint is heard under the requirements of due process in the procedure under Article 11, Section 3, to Paragraph 4, the House of Representatives is required to, letter A, provide a copy of the articles of impeachment and its accompanying evidence to the respondent to give him or her an opportunity to respond within a reasonable period to be determined by the House rules. The Constitution only requires an opportunity to be heard. It is up to the respondent to waive this fundamental right and opt to present his or her evidence at the Senate trial. And letter B, make the articles of impeachment with its accompanying evidence and the comment of the respondent available to all members of the House of Representatives. It is the House, not 1/3 of the House, that has the sole prerogative to initiate impeachments. Thus, there must be some modicum of deliberation so that each member representing their constituency can be heard and thus convince others of the position. That transmittal, however, will only take place upon the qualified vote of 1/3 of the House. That was the decision of the Supreme Court on the 7 requirements, Mr. Speaker. These requirements are nowhere found in the Constitution. They amount to a direct intrusion into the House exclusive constitutional authority to adopt its own impeachment rules. Many call this judicial overreach. I say it is judicial amendment of the Constitution. The right of the House to promulgate its own rules is clearly and plainly stated in our fundamental law. It is not for the Supreme Court to write rules and for the House to follow. The judiciary has the vital role of interpreting laws, including the Constitution. But that role does not extend to amending it. The power to interpret does not include the power to rewrite, Mr. Speaker. Yet, the decision effectively rewrote our impeachment rules, imposing requirements that are impractical, if not impossible, to fulfill. First, it mandates the House furnish the respondent with articles of impeachment and supporting evidence to allow them to respond before transmittal to the Senate. But the Constitution requires referral to the complaint to the proper committee within 3 session days. An impossible time frame for debate, notification, comment, and hearing. Failure to meet this deadline renders such proceedings unconstitutional. Second, it requires that articles supporting evidence and the respondent's comment be made available to all members. This opens the process to sabotage. A single member could invalidate proceedings simply by claiming they were not furnished or did not understand the documents. Such a scenario could not have been intended by the framers. Third, it holds that mere filing of an impeachment complaint, acted upon or not, constitutes initiation and triggers the 1-year bar. This dangerous precedent allows a crony to file a frivolous complaint the moment the bar expires, effectively shielding an impeachable official from real accountability year after year. The cumulative effect of this pronouncement is to ensure that impeachment against the Vice President and future impeachments against any official will not survive. One must ask, did the members of the Supreme Court wittingly or unwittingly shield themselves from impeachment? Let us remember, the last impeachment case before the Vice Presidents involved a sitting Supreme Court justice. Mr. Speaker, the Venerable Senator Claro M. Recto, principal drafter of the 1935 Constitution, must be turning in his grave. But not all is lost. The people's right to demand accountability from their highest officials must remain our guiding principle. This decision, while formidable, is not an insurmountable barrier. We must explore every avenue, navigate every obstacle, and take even the narrowest path to fulfill our constitutional duty. This House shall not bow in silence. The House has already filed its motion for reconsideration. The Honorable Supreme Court still has the opportunity to rectify its ruling, to issue a decision aligned with the facts, the letter and spirit of the Constitution, the principle of separation of powers, checks and balances, established precedent, and most importantly, the people's right to demand accountability. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, my dear colleagues.
Ito naman po, Firmax Framing and Lifting Cream, pinapahid po sa mga pulses in affected area. Mainam po sa paninigas ng mga kaso-kasuan. Ito naman po, Automax Radiant Serum. Sa mukha naman yung application, anti-aging po siya. You will look 10 years younger than your age. Sa mga cancer patients naman po, baka lang gusto ninyo itong itry. Neng siya red mixed fruit drink. Hindi mo po siya gamot, food supplement siya. Kaya lang, gawa siya mga kababayan sa goji berry. Yung goji berry, may anti-cancer properties. O ngayon, yung mga inquiries ninyo, dumiritso na lang kayo sa aming messenger sa Facebook para masagot namin agad. Ayos pa? Ayos na ayos niya, Mr. Maravillas. But anyway, ito po pala yung aming bagong product na binibenta online. I am worldwide amazing pure organic barley powdered drink mix from Australia. Negosyo to ng aking anak na architect entrepreneur Riz Maravillas. Ayan po. Kontakin na lang po ninyo siya, Riz Maravillas on Facebook. Ang mga health benefits niya, boost immunity, improves digestion, enhance energy levels, packed with antioxidants, prevent cancer. Sa mga nagana po ng malinis and spacious fitness gym, pumunta lang po kayo sa aming Colossal Fitness Gym. May Grab car rental din po kami. Ito naman po yung bago naming product na binibenta online. Eye Glow Serum, whitening po siya. Tingnan ninyo yung epekto sa aking anak na architect before and now. Yung mga inquiries po ninyo, dumiretso na lang kayo sa kanyang Facebook account, Riz Maravillas.